Okay, I'll just come right out and say it. Being a man is pretty great. I'm fairly strong, I don't have to worry about giving birth, and I get to pee standing up, jackpot. But when you take a look under the hood of the male body, there are quite a few things that are just downright weird, ranging from color blindness and male menopause to what's really happening below the belt. It's time for us to learn a few little-known facts about being a man. Oh boy, this one's gonna be an eye-opener for sure. Bigger brains. For centuries, women were told they weren't equal to men in terms of intellect because their brains were much smaller than their male counterparts. Over the years, though, women have constantly proven that they are more than capable of meeting and exceeding those misogynistic misconceptions. However, in 2014, a scientific review of all studies that analyzed measurements of the human brain revealed something shocking. Men do in fact have larger brains than women, ranging from about 8% to 13% larger. They also had larger brain regions associated with memory and spatial awareness. Women, on the other hand, had larger volumes in areas of the brain dealing with language and emotions. But here's the thing, there is no established link between function and size, so bigger definitely does not mean smarter. After all, an elephant's brain is 3 to 4 times larger than a human's, and we have yet to see an elephant score well on a calculus exam. But how can we be sure that having bigger brains definitely doesn't mean men are smarter? Well, more Darwin Awards. For those who don't know, the Darwin Awards are honors bestowed on people who accidentally remove themselves from the human gene pool in the most spectacularly idiotic ways possible. From fatally jet skiing off Niagara Falls to taking stupidly extreme selfies, each winner is just that much dumber than the last. If you want some grade A examples, check out my Darwin Award series, covering the most embarrassing ways people have died. If you do, you might spot a pattern in the winners. The vast majority of them are male, and I mean vast. In 2014, the Darwin Awards were handed out to 318 people, and an astonishing 89% of them were men. This indicates men have less self-preservation and, in turn, smarts than women. But this kind of recklessness might have been an advantage at one point in humanity's evolution. Cavemen might have displayed dominance by engaging in risky feats like taking down large, dangerous prey. This impulsive, high-risk, high-reward strategy likely won them mates and first access to food, with their strong, risk-taking genes passed down to the men around us today. And with that being said, next time any of you boys try to jump an open drawbridge with a car or play hide-and-seek with a bulldozer, two very worthy Darwin Award winners there, please just ask yourselves, what would the women do? But making smart decisions for your health as a man doesn't just mean avoiding dumb, dangerous situations. It also means checking in with your body to make sure everything's running as best it can. Now, I'm no medical expert, but I do know that reaching tip-top form is way easier with help from people who are experts, like the folks at Hone Health, the sponsors of today's video. Hone has helped me increase muscle mass, decrease pesky post-lockdown body fat, and enrich my life with a ton more energy and focus through something I'd previously never even considered. You see, Hone helps men get testing and treatment for low testosterone, an increasingly common cause of these issues, with real physicians, real science, and FDA-approved treatment methods. I utilized Hone's services from the comfort of my own home, and the results were straight up awesome. I feel like I'm in my early 20s again, all thanks to Hone and its physicians, who were there every step of the way, from testing to consultations to treatments being delivered directly to my door. 30 million men in the USA suffer from low testosterone, and most of them aren't even aware it's responsible for some of the problems they face daily. That issue is accelerating. Previous generations had 26% more testosterone and 50% more sperm than men do today, and the scientific community is beginning to believe factors in our modern environment may be to blame. So join me in taking back control by ordering Hone's super easy at-home assessment test today. For a limited time, you can click the link in the description or visit honehealth.com/beamazed to get the test and a doctor consultation for only $45. Now, let's learn some more about the male body, shall we? Digit development. Alright, I need you to do something now. And no, it's not hit those like and subscribe buttons, though if you did, that'd be cool too. No, what I want you to do is lay out your hand on a flat surface and look at the length of your index finger compared to your ring finger. Now, for most women, these will be about the same length, but for most men, their ring finger will be slightly longer than their index finger. Weird, right? Researchers have discovered that the length of your ring finger compared to your index finger is correlated to the amount of male hormones, mainly testosterone, you were exposed to in the womb. Cool as it is, it's not clear exactly why testosterone has this oddly specific effect. Did men in the past need those extra few millimeters on their ring fingers for something in particular? Like expertly picking their nose or scratching their butts? Well, you can put them to use now by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Alright, where were we? Muscle race. Many women slave away endlessly in the gym in the hopes of building a lean, toned body. But some men just lift weights a few times and seem to develop a six-pack overnight. I am, sadly, not one of them. But I'm still keen to know what the magic ingredient to this fast muscle development is. The answer? Testosterone. It's the primary male sex hormone that really starts pumping around our bodies during puberty. And women produce it too, but not nearly as much, with adult men producing approximately 20 times more testosterone naturally than women. It affects parts of the male body's development, such as muscle mass, because it's partially responsible for muscle protein synthesis. And as you've probably guessed, the more protein you can synthesize, the bigger your muscles are. These synthesis rates are also linked to your body's metabolic rate. So the more testosterone you have naturally, the easier it is to build muscle and burn fat. Now, you're probably thinking that having more testosterone makes it easier to build your dream body. At least that's what the meaty men pumped up on steroids hogging the weight section of the gym will tell you. But having too much testosterone isn't always a good thing. A balding problem. By the age of 50, about 85% of men have begun balding, though some try and save what few strands of hair they have left with a comb-over. But have you ever noticed that women, no matter their age, rarely lose all their hair? Why is that? Well, guys, I have bad news and worse news. The bad news is that this is a widespread hereditary condition called androgenetic alopecia, more commonly known as male pattern baldness. It happens because each strand of hair sits in a tiny cavity called a follicle, and over time these follicles can shrink, resulting in finer, shorter, and eventually no hair. But if that's the bad news, what's the worse news, I hear you ask? Well, this follicle shrinkage is caused by genetic sensitivity to dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, a byproduct of testosterone. This means that for men, the more natural testosterone you have, helping you build muscle and burn fat, the more DHT you're potentially producing, killing off your follicles. That being said, would you rather be a skinny twig with a head full of hair, or built like a god with a noggin that looks like an egg? Let me know down in the comments. No pain, no gain. Which do you think hurts more? Giving birth to a baby or being kicked square in the gonads? It's an age-old question that's guaranteed to start a war between men and women down in the comments section. While there's no question that giving birth is a much longer and way more impressive ordeal, it's hard to say exactly which hurts worse because all pain is subjective. It's all in the mind, and so it's difficult to directly compare one experience to another. What scientists do know from their research into human pain tolerances is that women have a much greater nerve density in their bodies than men, making them more sensitive to things like pain. One study explained how scientists found an average of 17 nerve fibers per square centimeter in the facial skin of men, but around double that amount in women, with 34 nerve fibers per square centimeter. Man, no wonder they hate tweezing their eyebrows so much. Women also experience hormone fluctuations linked to increased pain sensitivity. So, women likely feel more pain than men and feel it way more intensely to boot. This might indicate that men have a higher tolerance for pain than women, but these studies don't show any concrete findings, so more research is needed. Regardless, I'm pretty sure most men are happy never having to find out just how painful pushing a whole baby out of their body is. The perfect body. If social media is anything to go by, the ideal male body is a set of chiseled abs, big arms, little waist, and meaty thighs. The workouts that must take are exhausting just to think about. And it seems like this strong shape has been the standard for male beauty since, well, forever. But it really hasn't. Let's rewind all the way back to the 1870s, when the ideal male body was one that was surprisingly overweight. You heard that right. Being overweight in this age was a sign that you could afford plenty of food, and so indicated that you were wealthy. And what woman back then didn't want a wealthy husband, considering women weren't really allowed any means of supporting themselves? Moving on to the 1930s, though, and suddenly being slim was all the rage. This fitting physique became the common trend as middle-class families were no longer in fear of starving, and so the wealthier among them could afford to be fit. Then came the 1960s, and long-haired, skinny silhouettes surged in popularity. This physique was popularized by rock stars on the stage, who were the embodiment of anti-corporate mainstream chic. And then, in the 1970s and 80s, the widespread use of steroids saw meat mountains like Arnold Schwarzenegger steal the spotlight. I guess bigger really was better. Today, the roid rage is over, and a sort of effortlessly ripped physique is the main trend. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm closer to the 1870s than I am to the 2020s. We all start as women. Guys, have you ever looked at your chest and wondered, why the heck do I have nipples? Women can use theirs to breastfeed babies, so it doesn't really make sense for men to have them, right? Well, what if I told you that every human on Earth was once female, physically and phenotypically speaking? You see, we're all born with a set of chromosomes that determine our sex. For women, that's 2 X chromosomes, and for men, it's an X and a Y chromosome. When we're first conceived in the womb, the Y chromosome doesn't kick into our development right away. In fact, the first 5 or 6 weeks of embryonic development are influenced by the X chromosome alone. Females grow from an embryo fully developed from the X chromosome, but after about 6 weeks, a gene called the SRY gene activates the Y chromosome, if it's present, and stops female features from the X chromosome developing further while kickstarting male development. However, before the SRY gene is activated, certain female features, such as nipples, will have already developed on the fetus's body. And that's why we're all born with nipples. Whew! I'm glad I finally got that off my chest. Milkman. Man milk. We've established that male nipples don't have any kind of function. They're just sort of body decoration, chestmas ornaments, if you'll forgive the pun. Except they're not always useless. It's an uncommon occurrence, but men do have the ability to lactate, which is the scientific way of saying produce milk. The breast tissue of men and women contains clusters of alveoli that provide milk in response to a hormone produced by the pituitary gland called prolactin. Women naturally produce about 1/3 more prolactin than men, and during pregnancy, this increases up to 20 times more. So technically, you don't need to be pregnant to produce milk, you just need the right rush of hormones. And these can surge in men given the right circumstances. For instance, male prison camp survivors from World War II who suffered months of starvation began lactating after they received their first proper meals in months. It turned out their hormone-producing glands rebounded far quicker than their livers, which normally metabolize hormones, resulting in a hormone spike that caused lactation. And I thought regular war stories were bad. Body odor dating. How can you tell if a man is in a relationship? Maybe he's wearing a wedding band, perhaps you could check his relationship status on Facebook, or you could give him a big old sniff. That last one may sound weird, but it links back to a scientific study conducted in 2019. Researchers claimed that single men, on average, have higher levels of testosterone than men who have partners. This is because there's more sexual competition in single males, stimulating their bodies to produce more testosterone, whereas bonded males don't need to compete. But when it's broken down and discarded through our sweat, it produces the chemical androstenone, which has a smell that's as pungent as urine. So, the more testosterone you produce and break down, the smellier you are. Researchers tested this hypothesis in an 82-person study, and the results showed that single heterosexual men did smell stronger than the partnered men. With strong BO indicating a man has more testosterone, it's likely they have some other effects of high testosterone production as well, such as more muscle mass and better mating potential. This has led researchers to theorize that BO works as a chemical signal that women pick up, supposedly helping them identify single males and avoiding partnered ones. Although an alternative hypothesis is that single males have worse BO because they have bad hygiene practices. I know a few single basement dwellers who would definitely confirm that theory. The male perspective. Did you know that men and women see things differently? And I'm not talking about asking for directions. You see, men have about 25% more testosterone receptors in their visual cortex, the part of the brain where images are processed, than women. As a result, men are better at perceiving changes in brightness across a space in front of them, meaning they're significantly better at detecting fine detail and rapidly moving stimuli. According to the hunter-gatherer theory of human evolution, this would have helped them detect predators and prey more easily while out hunting. Women, however, are better at distinguishing colors in the very middle of the visual spectrum, mainly shades such as blue and green. This is because our color vision depends on 3 types of cones in the retina of the eye. 2 of these are carried on the X chromosome, so with more X chromosomes, women end up with better cone development and better color vision. In the hunter-gatherer theory, this would have made women better at gathering tasks, such as distinguishing which berries were safe to eat. Wow, I guess the grass really is greener on the women's side. Brilliant beards. Have you ever tried to grow a beard? If so, chances are you're a man. While it's not impossible for women to naturally sport hairy chins, men are more likely to grow long, thick, dark hair across their faces. This is because everyone's born with light, soft, vellus hairs that cover most of their bodies. When puberty hits, we begin producing hormones, called androgens, which stimulate vellus hairs to coarsen and darken in hormone-sensitive areas, such as our armpits and nether regions. Because men typically have higher levels of androgens, it stimulates more body and facial hair to sprout. But why exactly does it grow on our faces? Well, there is a weak link to beards and perceived dominance, because beards have the ability to make our jaws appear larger than it really is. Any burly-looking man who's shaved off a few months of growth only to reveal the baby face beneath will know what I'm talking about. Some studies indicate we see beards as being linked to older, stronger, and more dominant characters. However, having a beard isn't neatly linked to having more testosterone, greater muscle mass, or strength, so the verdict is still out on that one. What we do know is, at some point in history, women chose men who had beards, which is why the furry facial feature has been genetically passed down to many men today. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm never shaving again. Digestion differences. At a guess, how long do you reckon it takes for the food you eat to travel all the way through your digestive system and out the other end? Some of you may know from experience, if corn is anything to go by, that it generally ranges from 24 to 72 hours. But what you might not know is that time also depends on if you're male or female. You see, a study from 2019 marked the time it took 21 healthy people to digest the same food. On average, men took 33 hours to digest their food, whereas women took almost half a day more at 47 hours. Now, this is just one study, so we can't say this is true for every man, woman, and child. But we do know that when it comes to colons, the longest part of the large intestine, men actually have much shorter ones than women. Longer, slower emptying colons means women are almost twice as likely to experience colonic issues in their lifetime, from chronic constipation to the urgent need for a bowel movement. This means that the average man has shorter, sit-down bathroom breaks, while women generally need a little more time to deal with their chronic colonics. Hit the gas. So, we've established that, on average, men are naturally bigger and stronger than women. But when it comes to the realm of farts, it's men who are the weaklings. How is that possible? Well, flatulence occurs when the good microbes in our gut ferment undigested food, producing hydrogen sulfide. It's this chemical that gives our toots some seriously nose-pinching odors. You know, the type that smell like rotten eggs? Ugh. But professional flatulence researchers, which is somehow a genuine job title, went sniffing for more information. In one study, they measured the amount of smelly sulfur released by men and women who'd been fed the same diet of pinto beans and laxatives. Tasty. The data collected during the study found that the men had an average sulfur concentration of 0.59 milliliters per fart, whereas women almost tripled that, with an average of 1.77 milliliters. That meant that the standard male butt murmur wasn't nearly as noxious as the female fart. But why exactly do women have worse-smelling wind than men? Well, that's currently up for debate. Some believe that the increased length of the female colon gives food more time to ferment, or that they may have more microbes in their gut. Whatever the reason is, next time you're looking for who dealt it, be sure to look towards the lady in the room. Height of fashion. It's no secret that men are, on average, taller than women, thanks to many genetic, hormonal, and evolutionary factors. But what you might not know is that in the 1600s, the average European male hit an all-time low of just 5 feet 4 inches, which forced an incredible innovation. Was it stilts? Stepladders? Maybe booster seats? Nope, it was, in fact, high heels. They can be traced back to 15th century Persia, when soldiers wore them to help secure their feet in stirrups. Persian migrants brought the trend to Europe, where male aristocrats wore them to appear taller and more formidable. In 1673, King Louis XIV of France introduced a set of shoes with red heels and soles to the French court. And so they became a male fashion must-have for around 100 years. In those times, women were slowly adopting masculine fashions, like trimming their hair short and wearing hats. So they too started wearing high heels, and since then they've become a feminine fashion statement. Still, it's pretty funny to think that if it weren't for women adopting them, high heels might have been seen as a massively masculine thing to wear today. Now there's a bodybuilding show I'd pay to watch. Adam's apples. Some are so big they're difficult not to stare at, whereas others are so small you barely notice them. Know what I mean? Ew, no, get your head out of the gutter. I'm talking about Adam's apples. Both men and women have them, but men's are generally bulkier and more noticeable. Why is that? Well, this throaty feature is actually a chunk of cartilage wrapped around the larynx, also known as the voice box, which develops during puberty. Men tend to have larger voice boxes than women, and so the cartilage coating them is usually thicker. And because of their larger larynxes, males tend to have deeper, louder voices than females. But from an evolutionary standpoint, why would they need to be louder? Well, it's believed men once used their voices to intimidate male rivals. Because we're social creatures, men likely tried to scare other males away from their resources and females without resorting to violence, as that move poses a risk to them as well. It's similar to what we see in gorillas, where males will pound their chests and growl at rivals to frighten them off, instead of launching into an immediate, much riskier attack. I hope this means that men are a little smarter than the average ape. Menopause, for him. As women get older, they usually hit an age between 40 and 50 where their hormones suddenly change. Their body's production of female sex hormones, estrogen and progestogen, drops, transitioning them naturally into a state where they can no longer have children. This hormone fluctuation, called menopause, triggers mood swings, hot flushes, body changes, and is often the butt of many jokes.
My mom's ancient and grappling with the onset of menopause. Go to your room!
Guys might find this funny until they learn that women aren't the only ones that suffer from menopause. Also known as irritable male syndrome, male menopause generally starts to affect men in their 30s and 40s. Just like women, their bodies naturally stop producing certain sex hormones, most notably testosterone. But instead of stopping suddenly, men stop producing testosterone incrementally, dropping up to 2% each year. Eventually, it all adds up, and combined with lifestyle choices like a poor diet and lack of exercise, this can result in weight gain, mood swings, irritability, and even hot flushes. Unlike female menopause, though, male menopause doesn't affect fertility, although there's no better contraceptive than being a crotchety old man. The auto meerkat. Alright, it's time we talk about the trouser snake in the room. But to prevent this topic from setting off every last one of YouTube's takedown algorithms, I'm going to use some slightly fluffier language to explain it all. Now, any man will tell you that getting a trouser tent isn't something they have much control over. Women may think that's just an excuse, but it genuinely is an automatic response caused by the body's parasympathetic nervous system. This is the same bodily system that makes you physically react to certain stimuli, like goosebumps or shivers. Want proof? Well, when they're asleep at night, men tend to pitch a tent 3 to 5 times on average. But why does this happen so often when you sleep? Well, this is called nocturnal penile tumescence, or NPT, a sheet-raising phenomenon linked to the deepest phase of the sleep cycle, known as rapid eye movement or REM sleep. REM is the type of deep sleep where you dream, but it's not racy dreams that trigger this super stiff phenomenon. When a man's meerkat is on the lookout, his meerkat fills with blood, becoming rigid. Usually a neurotransmitter in the brain called norepinephrine can prevent the meerkat popping up by stopping the flow of blood to the meerkat. But during REM sleep, norepinephrine levels drop, resulting in a few meerkats. Oh man, I'm never gonna be able to watch The Lion King the same way ever again. Well, I've definitely learned a thing or two. Which of these weird facts shocked you the most? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.